Women Insurance Producers Unfiltered. This is another unfiltered conversation. Today, it is with the incredible founder and CEO of Kanonball Insurance Solutions, and she's also home of Medicare Wonder Woman. As a fellow fan, we have been excited about this interview for a couple of weeks since we actually booked it. And Linda and I are just going to start asking a few questions. This is Miss Rebecca Davis.
Hey, y'all. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now look, the Texas just came out on that. I picked it up right there. I heard it.
Cowboy hat.
Yeah, no, Rebecca, we like to just get unfiltered with all the women that we bring on to interview. And guys, if you're listening to this, I just want you guys to remember the questions that we're asking aren't necessarily for Rebecca as much as they're for everybody. So a lot of times we see, folks highlight reels and, they've edited out the bad lowlights. And we want to kind of, find out the real truth, the real skinny, as the kids say it today. But Rebecca, I like to open up and have a little bit of fun. And I think that we can learn a lot from where somebody is now based on where they came from. So this time period that I want you to think about is, let's go high school or college years, whichever you prefer. But I'm going to give you the choice of answering one question. Do you want to answer a question about cars, music, or hair?
Oh, let's go with hair.
Hair. All right. Now, are we going to be talking about Rebecca Davis in high school or college?
Well, Rebecca Davis didn't go to college, but
all right, makes it
I
easy.
had college years, sort of. I hung out with a girlfriend of mine that went to college. I partied with her.
It all works. It all works. So we're going to talk about Rebecca Davis in high school. When you were walking down the hall on your way to class, what hairstyle were you most often caught in?
Probably the one I have today, honestly. Because in high school, I was boring. Now, in my 20s, Lord knows what I would have walked with. I've had blue hair. I've had pink hair. I've had peacock hair. I've had Jennifer Aniston's hair. I've had Posh Spice's hair where it was shaved on one side and long on the other and a bleach blonde. But in high school, I was a cowgirl. Like, I still lived at home. I played sports, so my hair was longer than this, but style, just figure what I got now, except not gray. And then really long. That was my high school hair.
All right. One follow-on question to that. If Yola or myself was to step into your bathroom and take a peek under your sink where you kept all your hair supplies, what's one thing you had to have in there or you just couldn't survive?
Oh gosh. Okay. So let's go back to pre-high school, because by the time I got to high school, we started flattening things out, right? But in junior high, we had the bangs like this. So you were finding Aquanet by the gallons, right? To get those stand-up bangs.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah. And you could also read it, when you were doing your business back before we had phones, you had to find something.
Do you remember when you used to have magazines in the bathroom?
Right. The
Farmer's Almanac in particular.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God.
Or Uncle John's bathroom reader. Everybody always had those. But now the whole gist of that question is, I think sometimes we can tell phases of people's lives based on small trends like that. So in other words, I pretty much had all of my hair in high school, but it was in a ponytail, and that was it. It was always in a ponytail. But I was also, doing all the sports that there were to do and different things like that. So I think it's just fun to kind of look back at what somebody was like, a few decades ago as we near that half century mark, all of us. Yola, what'd your hair
look like? You just wanted to date me. That's all you wanted to do with the whole bangs and Aquanet.
Yeah, it was just boom out there. And it was big. Like, it would be, it'd take up the whole camera.
Yep, I mean, the bigger the bigger the hair, the closer to God.
You
We was
know,
definitely trying to get it go all big back then. Mine, I was just trying to tame back all the Middle Eastern hair that I have, so I was always like trying to straighten it or doing things to it. Now I'm just kind of embracing that this is the craziness that God has given me, and I'm just gonna roll with it.
My favorite hair tool though back then was the crimper, the
knew you
old
were going to say that. I knew it.
blue crimper. Mine was blue. I still own it to this day, and I pull it out for parties at times.
Oh my
Now I
God.
know they're remade it and stuff, but I have the original. You can smell the hair burning.
I
Yeah.
remember and I promise we'll get off of this topic, guys, but we're having some fun. I remember the purple Aussie mousse that came out of a little teeny tiny thing. You put it on and crimp your hair. Gilly, you have to remember
In
that.
my bathroom today. It smells like grape. It's amazing. I like
Yeah.
it for the smell.
Yeah.
Nothing's
But
better than originals.
yeah, but when we're talking about you mentioned there that you had some different phases, like you went through blue hair and you went through shaved hair like me, and you did all these things. Is there one of those time periods that was super pivotal in putting you on the course that put you where you are right now?
So there's probably several things ultimately. So I grew up in the farm and ranch community. If you know me, most people know that. My dad was a horse trainer. I grew up in, the first word probably out of my mouth was work, honestly, because that's what we do when you grew up in that way. And then I had a really bad car wreck. I was showing horses almost professionally. And when I was 23, right after we moved to Texas, I had a really bad car wreck. And I flipped a Mustang end over end 7 times, got ejected. Well, I got sucked out from my seatbelt. I was driving. The back of my car seat broke. I sucked out from my seatbelt, ejected out the back windshield, landed in a barbed wire fence and a fire ant hill. And I still have the fire ant scars today. But I broke everything from here to here. You can't see mine, but pretty much I broke my C2 in my neck. So before I was a Medicare Wonder Woman, my catchphrase was "I stronger than Superman," because if you know his story, that's the same vertebrae in his neck and caused him to be paralyzed. I broke my scapula. I broke my back in multiple places. Glass coming out of places you don't want to know where glass can come out of. And ultimately, I did not get on a horse again for 3 years, which pretty much completely stopped my show career and what I was doing. And then when I did go back to riding, I still won things and I was still competitive, but I was not in the same place. It hurt, like it physically hurt to do it. And I still did it for a long time. But going back to that wreck, I was in the hospital in the ICU for quite some time. They didn't think I'd walk again. I did. And here's the kind of the funny story and what brings my whole story full circle. I walked out of that hospital and I walked out with what I thought was really good insurance. I was 23. I was paying almost $400 a month. It was for self-employed insurance. I was not an insurance person then. I knew nothing about it. I was trusting my agent, my broker. And my insurance policy did not pay 1 red cent. So when I walked out of that hospital, I walked out in $1 million in hospital debt. 3 lawyers later, they said there were so many loopholes in the policies. There's nothing they could do about it for me. And at 25, I had to file bankruptcy because I couldn't get out from it. Because back then, hospital bills can't against you. And so here I am, barely mobile. It took a long time to recover. I still hurt to this day. But then $1 million in hospital debt, having to file bankruptcy, and almost kind of starting my life over, especially on, building your life part. So now we're going to fast forward 2 divorces later. I'm pregnant with my son, working a retail job. I was actually managing, believe it or not, a retail store here in town. And I ended up having early labor. Started hemorrhaging, went into early labor, in which turned into an emergency C-section. And that's a whole nother story in between that. That involves wine and a couch. But anyways, went into early labor. And in the moment I met him, when they get him, I saw him. He was tiny. He was like 5 pounds, 7 ounces. He's a little guy. And when you work retail, I don't know if you ever work retail, but you work nights, weekends, holidays, right? Because that's when people go shopping. You work on Christmas, you work on New Year's. But when I saw him, I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, it was just that quick. And it never bothered me before. But in that moment, I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. So while I was on maternity leave, I was looking for a different career path. And I found State Farm. And so I was like, so you're going to pay me to sell something you legally have to have. How hard can that be? I mean, I've sold very expensive horses. I've sold high-end Western wear. You name it, I've sold it. So how hard can selling something you have to have be, right? That was my true thought process. Joke was on me later on that it was a little harder than I thought. But anyways, I interviewed, I got the job pending I get my licenses. I got both my P&C and my life and health in 2 weeks, and I went to work. And then when I was at State Farm, I considered that my college education of insurance. I worked there almost 4 years, and I was on the ground floor of Obamacare because it came out when I was working there. So I've done ACA since day one. We were the top 50 in the nation in health, which you don't think of State Farm being in health, but our little office in Stephenville, Texas, because I kept gravitating towards it. And I didn't really think about why. But one day, about 3 years into it, I had like an epiphany, or however you say that. And I just started giggling to myself. I'm like, you're so funny. You know that? You're really funny. Because doesn't God work in mysterious ways? I kept gravitating towards health. I got really good at health really quickly. I truly believe it because of my experience 20 years before of being laid up on the side of the road in a barbed wire fence in a fire ant hill with a broken neck and back, and my insurance company was not there for me.
Yeah.
That's about the time I also decided to go out on my own because I wanted to specialize in health. In a state, we don't specialize in health. We dabbled in, but we didn't specialize in. I wanted to specialize in health. I heard about brokers and independents and heard about Medicare, and I'm like, I want to go do that. And the whole reason I wanted to go do that is because 25 years ago, I was not taken care of properly. And to this day, I'm so funny about vetting policies, vetting plans, something kind of new coming to the market. I will vet it. I will put myself on it if I can, or a family member on it. I'll tell them to go use it. I want to know how it works before I will ever offer it to my clients. Because I never want my client to be in the situation I was. Our mission statement from day one, before I even realized what a mission statement was we protect the things that matter most to you. It's on my walls. I had no idea that was what a mission statement was. I learned that several years later. But it's always been mine because nobody protected me. I was a 23-year-old kid, and my life changed like that.
That's so true. I mean, it's like, sort of even with this group that Yoel and I created, it kind of came full circle. I swear I'm gonna do a talk on this because I think there's so much meat in it. But sometimes I feel like your circle becomes your cell. Like you have a circle of friends or a circle of influence. And if you're not careful, that circle turns into your cell. Like you're not getting out of it. It's a jail cell, and they clank the doors shut. You had a big instance happen when, with the wreck, and you could have went one of two different ways, and it comes full circle back to where you are right now. It looks like you had a question. I don't want to jump in until I give you a chance. I just wanted to say
the whole full circle thing. I was just giggling internally myself. I'm like, it was a full circle with a lot of Y's in the road from from that wreck to actually getting here. I took a lot of detours and hit a lot of bumpy roads and went up a bunch of mountains and thought I could cliff dive, things like that. I mean, it wasn't just all gravy, so to speak. I mean, it took me 20 years basically to find myself because I thought I already knew myself. And
Right.
then when that changed and was kind of taken away from me in what I was doing in the horse business, it's almost you had to refine yourself. And had 2 failed marriages, and that's a whole conversation in itself. I mean, us women, we put up and go through a lot, right? There's not a woman out there that doesn't have a crazy ass story somewhere in her life. I promise I've never met one that hasn't been through some sort of tragedy, right? And, that's just part of those whys and those bumpy roads. But at the end of the day, if you keep moving forward, you will eventually find your path. You will find your cruise control, and you will find out who you are and what you really want to be and what you're meant for in this world.
I mean, I always say this is a character defining business. You get to decide who you want to be every day. And this does define your character the longer that you're in it. Because once you're past the first layer, which is the excitement about how you can help people and the money and all that. But then afterwards, when that becomes not just your norm, but you're trying to elevate in your business, how are you going to character define? And that's what leads to my question is 23-year-old Rebecca, I almost cried. Now I know why Wonder Woman is in your title. That is some incredible, incredible things to go through and still, rise on top and really see the bigger picture as to what your calling is, right? Because I'm gonna start crying, but you've changed a lot of women's lives. Me included. I've actually watched your story for a few years, so the fact that we're having this conversation right now is it's kind of a dream come true, and I'm thankful. But if you had to talk to 23-year-old Rebecca now that we're here and you've done all of these amazing things with your career, what would you tell her?
That's always such a loaded and hard question, because if 23-year-old Rebecca didn't go through all those things, 23-year-old Rebecca wouldn't be sitting here in front of you today. 23 Rebecca would be in a show ring somewhere on the back of a horse. And insurance would never be in my vocabulary, right? So it's really hard to say. I mean, if you could go back in time and stop the hurt and stop the pain and, stop, divorce and bad decisions and life, right? Because that's what you were saying. Go back and stop your life. Where would you be today? Well, I have no idea, because I would not be the person I am today. There's always bits and pieces I would like, I wish I could go back and maybe undo that specific piece. That would be really nice. I might still be where I am today with a little less hassle. But at the end of the day, it's what makes you who you are, good, bad, or indifferent. Without those experiences, by the time you get to our generational age, now because you dated me earlier, I'm going to date you now. We are not the people we are today without the experiences that we had then. And I'm not saying we're better people or worse people or in between. It's just different.
I mean, I think,
and today I'm pretty happy with where Rebecca Davis is. I did go through a lot, and it was really hard and very painful lots of times. But today, today I'm happy. Today I choose joy. Today I choose my family. Today I choose my team, my clients. I'm not sure I'd change that.
Love it. Hey, your character is defining you for your calling, and your character happens with little things that you go through that develops that character. I mean, I couldn't help but think you being in the ACA and Medicare space, you easily could have been the one on the other side of that desk looking for Medicare or Medicaid help, because you had the excuse to do that. You had the reason. I mean, your back was broken. And there was something about you and your character that said, no, that's not my calling. I want to step out and lead a path, lead other women through the trenches of where I've been. So, I mean, I think that's like, that's so crazy. The other thing is, women are really hard on ourselves. I think women have the burden to be better in a lot of ways. And I think that sometimes we don't see the progress. Like we're very short-sighted on the progress, and very, like, we can remember failures from way, way back. And it's hard to get past that, hey, every day you're raising the bar, but there's still massive progress that's happened along the way. Question I have for you, Rebecca, because you've kind of grown pretty big, substantially over the last 20. How long did you say you've been in?
So I've been in the insurance business since 2012. At State Farm for 4 years, and then I opened my agency in 2017.
Okay, yeah. So you've got some years on you. You're a dinosaur after a year in this business. So you're false. You're fossilized.
I've been called a dinosaur in this business.
Fossilized at this point. Like it's hard to fail. If you can make it past 5 years, it's hard to fail. Because you've got to stick with it to even get to that point. But I had a question written down. I think that also women have a hard time dividing emotions and business sometimes. Do you remember a time progressing through your career that you removed emotions completely from a decision and moved forward? And how did it go?
I think you do more of that the farther you get into your career, when you start looking at your insurance job or career, right, as a business. So once you get from solopreneur to whether you build a team or have staff, you now have to separate the emotion from the business. Otherwise, you're going to have a business that's run on emotion, and that does not work out very well in anybody's favor. And I'm not saying I've never made decisions out of emotion and maybe a little regret from that. But ultimately, you have to learn to take the emotion out of business, or you're going to end up having a lot of regret with the decisions you make. Whether it's hanging on to somebody too long, firing somebody too quickly, not working with a client or spending too much with a client. I mean, the emotion drives so much of it, especially as women, as you said, women. So we really have to learn to separate that part of our brain, from our heart. Because at the end of the day, if you're wanting to grow a business, if you're wanting to manage people, if you're wanting to train, if you're wanting to lead, you do have to learn how to do it with more common sense, logic, and maybe empathy, but don't join them in the wallow of whatever they're going through, right? You got to stay on the outside looking in so you can help drive somebody through that, or help make a business decision for yourself. Does this person just need more time, or does this person need to let them know that this career is truly not for them? This is not a career for everybody. It sounds glamorous and easy on, social media, like you said, unfiltered. There is nothing glamorous about the insurance space. This is because we all got bored and lonely in our bubbles, and we found other people like, oh, there's other people out here to do this. We can talk to them. Oh, that's a fantastic idea, right? But the job itself is not glamorous. We're not infamous or whatever we do to ourselves at these conferences. When I started, the conferences weren't a thing. We've all become like, little insurance celebrities in their own right, influencers or whatever that term is these days. But at the end of the day, what we do is not glamorous. It is still a job. We are taking care of people. We're, hearing about toe fungus and cancer and heart conditions and medicines and, money and how to save, because we work with a lot of low-income people. So there's nothing about this is glamorous. It's
maybe some spelling houses
to find each other. But I think women are the hardest, not only on yourself, but I think we're also the hardest on each other.
Yes.
And that part needs to stop. It's part of the reason why I joined, me and Faye started WIN, Women Insurance Niches, because we wanted a safe place where women could collaborate without the pettiness and the drama and the jealousy and just being catty. I mean, I hate to say it, but women are super catty and they're super judgy, and
there's enough room at the top. There's enough room at the top for everybody. I don't know if you've even paid a whole lot of attention, but our logo, Yola has it on her back. Maybe we can get her to show it later, but our logo is literally a female reaching down to pull another female up. Like I do not need I don't need to use you as a stepping stone to get where I'm going. And I say that alpha females can run in packs. Like you just got to find the right group. But you left you volleyed me a good shot there to ask a follow-on question. Give us an example. Give us an example of, when you knew that it was time to walk away, the business had, kind of severed. When you knew, and then did you do it at that time, or did you, stay on for a little more punishment?
I'm going to have a follow-up question. I need a little more specific. Walk away from what?
Walk away from a situation within the industry where, either it was somebody that their ideas did not align with yours anymore, or they were being catty. Any of those situations, and it doesn't have to be a female, just anybody.
Right. Okay, I understand your question now. Thank you. I just want to clarify the question. So,
but if your question that you had in your head was better, ask it.
If you've been in the industry for any length of time, you've probably, leapfrogged through a few different FMOs, right? Yep. Sometimes you leapfrog because they're right for right now, but then you grow and they're not what you need anymore, and you just grow out of them. Sometimes you leapfrog out of them because you get with one that is not what I would think of honorable or trustworthy. And, they're doing things behind your back or not giving you the honest truth about things as well, depending on the situation. And so you leapfrog out of that. I think, I had one a few years ago in FMO. There was a kind of a twofold in that situation. I didn't feel like there was a trust there anymore. I felt taken advantage of, I guess maybe is a good way. That's not really quite the word I'm looking for. But anyways, it wasn't working out. And I started interviewing because I didn't want to upset the apple cart, because I had a pretty decent sized team. And I just started interviewing other things very quietly under the table. And then one person I interviewed, they immediately, after we got done talking, it was supposed to be this very, down low call between me and them only. Well, they turned around and called that person right after they hung up the phone with me. I'm just like, wow, really? Do you not honor your reputation at all? And in that moment, at that point, it was easy. I just had to find the home, where I wanted to go. And I did. And I've been there since, and super happy with who I work with now. But ultimately, some of us hang on to places out of loyalty when we shouldn't be loyal to them. I am all for loyalty. You find a good home, what you need, you be loyal, you work through it, because it's a business partner relationship, and there's bumps in all relationships, you guys. And if you got a good one, sit down with them. If you're not getting everything you need, or you need something else, sit down there and have that conversation with them. But ultimately, if you can't do that, or if they're just dishonest and you really feel that in your bones, then don't be loyal to them. There are amazing other business partners you can align yourself with to get out of. So that's always a hard one for people. We run into it a lot just with agents coming over, and then I've been through it myself, right? It's a hard conversation to have, but ultimately, you're going to have to do it at some point in your career. And I've had agents come to me that, ultimately just decided to go to a different direction. And that is perfectly fine. This is business. That goes back to your conversation earlier. The emotion and the business, you got to get it separated, because business is business and friendship and emotional and personal is here. And that agent was scared to come to me. And I'm like, and it was a woman. And I'm like, why are you scared to come to me? She's like, I didn't want to upset our friendship. I'm like, you can't. You were doing something for your business that I know is what you want to do, because you've talked about this for years. Where do I sign, and how do I wish you well? And I will always be here for you, right? Why can't it always be that way?
I want to answer that question. I know it was a rhetorical question, but I want to answer it. I think that insurance, we talk about being a little family. You know, like, hey, you're on my team, so you're on my family, and you know we're best friends, and we're hanging out, and we blur the lines of business,
Well, that's
professional,
the
and
key
personal.
right there. You said the multi-million-dollar word that needs to leave everybody's vocabulary. We are not a family. We are a team. Sports teams work together for one goal. The family
All right.
heads. The family, you drop everything for to go take care of. A team has a vision and a goal that we're working towards. And
Yep.
yes, when you start using the word family and you start intermingling that, whether it's your staff, your partners, it's blurred.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to fly to your house at 3 a.m. and hold the barf bag. You're my team member, not my husband.
Yep.
Right? There is a difference. There is a line. There's a boundary.
I used to say,
and I'm as bad about it as anybody because I'm like I'm all about relationships and I get really tied into that and bad about it. And I had to learn this. This is why I'm on this soapbox right now because I had to learn this, especially with employees in the early stages. I grew up like that. Oh, we're a family. I had to learn. No, this is not a family.
and you're not their therapist. That's the other thing. We come in and it's like all of a sudden we're not just their coach. We're their business partner, we're their bank manager, we're their therapist. No, I can show you how to make more money and then you can go pay for those services, but it can't be me. I can't get tied up into that. What were you gonna chime in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely on the board with you guys as somebody that's been burned by quote unquote somebody I was loyal to because, you know, not knowing that, well, I knew at the time, but it's like you blur the lines, like you said, like, okay, well, we're on the same team, we're trying to get somewhere together, and at the second that no longer aligns from what their goals are for you or what they are, is they're burning you and they're putting you out to, you know, out to fire at that. But I think that's part of the ugliness of this business. That's why we're unfiltered. Like, it's not all, like she said, this is not glamorous. If you're looking for a movie role title, go to Hollywood. This is not the place because a lot of it is ugly. It brings out a lot of our ugly parts in us, and it kind of lets you understand where other people are coming from if you can give them that empathy. But at the end of the day, like, business is never personal. You just got to make sure that it's your business that you're looking after.
And you got to also make sure there's a fine line between leading and manipulating. And if you're not for sure where that line is, leading is helping somebody get to what they want, which helps me get what I want. Manipulating is only doing something that helps me get what I want. And at the end of the day, we can't make that decision. Just like Rebecca said, you know, the lady who was scared to come to you because she wanted to go a different direction. I've always told folks, do what's right for you and your family. I tell clients that, hey, Miss Johnson, take me and your agent out of the equation. We're not the ones paying the claim. The company is. So take emotions out of it and make the choice. And last thing I'll say before I kick it back to Yola, if you're the lower on the totem pole, if you're not the manager, if you're the agent looking up to the manager or looking up to your manager, make sure your expectations are right. Nobody's building this business for you. Nobody is doing the work for you. We can give you the car, but your ass still has to get in the car, crank it up, put it in gear, and take off down the road. We can't do that for you. So make sure that your expectations are right as well, and you're not asking for the moon at the same time.
I think that's hard for women because our natural instinct is to give the moon, especially if you're a mom. You're used to that role. I mean, it's really hard for me to separate sometimes, like, I'm getting messages at 10, 11, 12, 1 in the morning, and then again at 5 in the morning. But here's the thing, I'm answering them. and everybody keeps holding up a mirror to me because you're tired, but this is why you need to set a boundary.
Boundaries.
And a part of it, I can't help myself, but I started to this year, and I'm going to bring this up because it's something you guys asked me off camera, why I'm not going to Medicarians.
I was about to ask that question.
Because I'm starting to figure out some boundaries, right? I've spent the last 3-4 years traveling and training and coaching and helping, anywhere I can. Some of it's to give my name out, some of it's to help people, some of it's just because I enjoy it. Let's be honest, we do it because we enjoy it. But I started this business because of my son. Well, my son's now 12 going on 13. And this last year we moved. We didn't move far. We just moved to a different town next. I still in the same office, but anyways, he had to change schools. In the first semester of his new school career, it was not going so well. He was suspended twice for fighting, and then he got suspended once for being a lover. So he went from a fighter to a lover. So I got a 12-year-old boy who's a really sweet kid who's never gotten into trouble like that before. And as a mom, all I can think of is, in his own way, he's saying, I want more attention, right? So this year, I in fact, I had a couple events scheduled for that fall. Even though it was open enrollment, there's always a couple things that always lined up. I didn't go. We didn't even go anywhere for Christmas. Even though going somewhere for Christmas is still family, I chose to stay home. I'm like, let's be home. Let's be just here for a minute. Let's just pause for a minute, right? And then I've done, I think, one little thing, and then of course win. And then I did the agent trip. I had a top agent trip last week, which took me away from him. And then so I was gone last week. If I go to Medicarians and I'm gone for a week, then there's the NABID thing in Houston. If I go to that, I'm gone for 2 weeks in a row, almost 3 weeks in a row. Then I'm supposed to go to DC with HAFA, and that's a top of priority to go talk to senators. I'm definitely going to do that. But then I can turn around and there's SWAT and another event in May. And then you got Christian's event, and then you got Miss Medicare, and then you got 8% Nation, and then you got the Hoffer Conference. And I'm just touching on the ones everybody knows on. There's a million more other ones that I used to go to as well, or do go to. And I was doing my calendar, and I got a 12-year-old boy that's screaming for attention. And I'm looking at a calendar that says Mommy's never home. And it's been like that for a while. So this year, I made the decision. Mommy's only going to what Mommy thinks is an absolute necessary to keep her business and the people underneath her moving in the right direction, getting the information we need to be successful. Mommy's going to cut out some of the stuff Mommy just goes to be a part. Yes, do I learn? Yes, do I grow? Yes, do I meet amazing people? Of course. But at the end of the day, nobody's more amazing than my 12-year-old son. And so this year, I've chosen that boundary. This is why you save this for the end, because this will always get me emotional. Doesn't matter who's in the room. My son.
That's when you can tell when passion.
And so right now, I'm taking a breath. I'm still doing what is needed of me, but I'm not doing any more than that if it requires me, leaving home, so to speak. Yep. So that is why I'm not going to Medicarians, even after I think 200 people have asked me if I was going to be there. And I swear every agent I know is going this year, and Medicarians has never been that way. Like, it's going to be a heck of a party. And I keep saying, no. And then Yola's like, I have a free ticket if you want to come. And I'm like, oh my God.
Come drink with us in Vegas.
And I've been invited, of course, to the closed door ACA summit. And I'm like, I really do need to go for that.
Don't you have your own plane?
Brand new agent in Nevada. I'm like, I could be here. I have a million reasons why I could go.
Don't you have your own plane?
Not yet. Well, it's invisible, right? When everyone's plane's invisible. I haven't found it. I can't find it. I lost it.
So last question.
going back to what you say, or what you're talking about is about boundaries and priorities. I think that's a right that you've earned throughout being this successful in the business, and you've already given a lot of your time and energy to the business and to the industry, and you've changed other people's lives. I think it's beautiful that you're recognizing that you've got one right in the house that you need to kind of focus on. And this is why we do it. It's to spend time with the people that are most important to us. And what we give back is truly because we love giving back. It's not because we want to be famous. It's not because it's, serving us in any way. We're just trying to make sure that there's a platform for everybody to know that there's other important parts of this industry. Who you are, not just what you produce, is also a big part of who you are as a human, and what you're giving back and what you're doing in those lives of everyday people that you see, not just being on a podcast once a month, or seeing you on Facebook Live and everything that you're doing. It's more about what really matters. And I commend you for starting to really recognize that.
And there's been,
we all forget the reason we become self-employed is so we can make our own schedule. But then if we get good at it, we're so busy being busy in the career we chose, we no longer have time for a schedule. I mean, I quit the retail job because I didn't want to work nights, weekends, and holidays. Well, State Farm gave me that. But then when I stepped out of those doors, I traded that for 24/7, 365.
yeah.
And my kid gets it, but he's my one and only. I only have one. And you know what do I got? 5 years until he does his own thing.
And I've never heard anyone on their deathbed say, man, I wish I'd have went to that conference. But I do hear a lot say, I wish I'd been home with family more. I wish I would have seen this or that. We're running out of time. So last question, we got to end with this. It's a key to our interviews. At the end of the day, Rebecca, when you're 89 years old, sitting on the porch in your cowgirl hat, drinking sweet tea, what does your legacy look like?
Well, for me personally, peace, like joy, happiness, but ultimately peace, because the calmness, and to sit in the calmness and realize you did it is really hard. That's for my internalness. But what do I want to see? I would love to see amazing people step up and say, because of her, I also got to experience that with my family. And I got to do for my family. And nobody did it for me. But she helped me figure it out and create the business of their dreams and to live their goals and their life. And I would love for them to sit next to me. And it's not going to be sweet tea, but sit next to me. We can pass the hat around and all be able to sit in peace, knowing we did it together. And we're all amazing people in our own rights, running amazing businesses in our own rights.
I know you've already impacted many more than you would ever know. I say that all the time. I sell life insurance for the most part. And I know that there is a thank you whispered in the funeral home when the family goes in to make arrangements and they have that policy. It's whispered. I never hear it most of the time, but it does happen. So we know that you have positively impacted more people than you can count. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, if they say, dang, I like that lady and I want to know more and I want to join her team, how do folks reach out to you?
Oh, I'm probably the easiest person in the world to get a hold of. So if you want to email me, I'll give you the one that's easy to remember. It's the Medicare Wonder Woman at Gmail. So Medicare Wonder Woman at Gmail. Facebook, Rebecca Davis, put Medicare Wonder Woman behind it. You'll find all my stuff. I answer my Facebook messages. So if you just want to reach out to me there, that's fine. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. Now those messages on Instagram barely get read. That's not my platform, but TikTok, Facebook, or email, or you can just call the office, Kanonball Insurance Solutions with a K here in Stephenville, Texas. And you can talk to somebody at the office. If you're an agent, you want to talk to me specifically, you probably want to ask for Melissa or Hunter in my office, and they will get you hooked up with me.
Perfect. You'll close this out. This has been great. I've learned a lot today, and I'm sure that everybody else has too.
I've got to go and freshen up my makeup after this. I was not planning on crying in this interview. I wanted to thank you for your time, for your candor with us. And as far as Women Insurance Producers Unfiltered is concerned, we will see everybody in Vegas because this is our first official event. We're actually introducing a few things into our platform that is meant to elevate women a little bit more and to actually highlight them, because this is what our community was built on. It was built on just us getting to know each other. And, you know, this is the more that you build relationships in this business, the more that you're going to be able to reach out to a friend when you need something, because I've called it out on a lot of wonderful women in our community. And we just want to give that platform to women that don't have a platform. Like you have Club Win, which is incredible too. I like your idea with the retreats, you know, probably gonna steal that.
You never know, maybe some collaboration.
Well, holler at me if you want some help, doing something like
yeah,
that. I'm more than happy to help you, or even come speak for you or attend. It's always good fun. I'm sorry I'm going to miss your event at Medicarians. I was really bummed to hear about that.
There'll be more.
To hear that there was going to be an event like that at Medicarians, though. So kudos to you ladies for doing that and getting the ladies together in a room. It sounds like there's going to be a bunch of people there. I bet it's a huge success. And I'm super excited for you ladies as well, and your journey with this podcast and your group.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. See you guys, WIPU Nation.
And on that
Thank
end,
y'all.